So I am Drew McQuinn. I'm the mortgage specialist with RBC in Halifax, and I'm here with my associate Sandi Lee with Century 21 Trident. And today we're going to be doing a discussion around rental properties and Airbnb in particular in the Halifax area, right?
Short-term stays.
Yeah,
that's right.
because you're kind of in that game, right?
Yes, I prefer to do short-term stays versus long-term stays, just from learning like the pros and cons and the gains and the losses.
For sure. Well, it's a really interesting topic, and we thought we'd cover that off for all of you. So just before I begin, I just wanted to say that all this information that we're providing today is from our opinions as professionals rather than advice. I just wanted you to tell me a little bit about your background in real estate and how you got into it and that sort of thing.
I've always been a real estate fanatic ever since the 1990s. Back when I was a paralegal, I worked for a developer. I really loved the agents that I've engaged with. I remember since then, I said that will be my last career. I will be a realtor when I'm ready. And I knew it wasn't easy. I see them hustling. I see them working hard.
You identified with that.
I identify with that, and I said that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
So when I moved here, I've always wanted my first investment property, and it just kind of spiraled. I found something, and then it just built from 1 to 2 to 3. And obviously you're creating more debt, so you have to really be mindful of
cash flow.
Exactly, cash flow, making sure you pay your bills, and also being a realtor, there's a lot of expenses. That's like, if anybody who wants to invest, just be mindful of where the money is going out.
We'll just move back into the Airbnb stuff since we're on that.
This is just my take on my experience with being landlord.
How long have you been doing this for?
Since 2008.
Yeah, and so what got you into it?
Okay, so Drew, this is really crazy, but I've always believed in investing in real estate ever since I was really, really little. I've always loved the idea of just being a landlord and just having a couple of properties, slowly building wealth with it, and just having different pillars.
Diversifying,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Well, what are the best parts about it for you? Like, what do you like about that aspect of investing the most?
Well, I would say we found that the short-term stays, you're in better control of your property, and you just want to make sure that the guest respects your property like you would as a homeowner.
Yeah, you've talked to me about this, and I really love the idea of the short term versus like what, overnight or like 2 nights, something like that?
If it was a detached home, we do not do 1 night. Our minimal stay would be about 1 week.
Okay.
And up to 30 days or 3 months or 6 months, depending on that particular guest.
So it's the reason behind that would be maybe it's, like you said, like easier to control?
With the short-term stays, they're harder to come by, so you can charge a little bit more. And the fees, they do pay up front as well. And then if they wanted to extend, and if we felt like they respected the property, we'll allow another extension for another week or 2 weeks or a month.
What would you say the challenges are for this type of renting versus, say, a shorter term? Is it difficult to find the right tenants?
You just need to have a little cushion in your bank account, because when you're interviewing or you're going through the application, you want to make sure that they have a good credit score, that they say who they really are. But mostly what we look for in a guest, I would say, is someone who is traveling for business. They're not really in the home too much to do too much damage. And we also limit no pets. So there's a lot of rules in our properties.
With regards to the market in Halifax for Airbnb, do you think it's getting a little saturated, or do you feel like there's lots of opportunity? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so Drew, I think any type of investment is really good right now. I think what it boils down to, what is your return on your investment, and how much time do you have, because it does require a lot of time if you want to set up a short-term stays. There's a lot of planning. You have to have trusted people, cleaners going in, to just organizing the calendar, and you want to get a good review. You want to be a host. There's so many factors if you want repeat clients to come back.
So when you say reviews, where would those be going? Like
Airbnb, there's reviews from the guests.
So
Yeah.
You don't want a thumbs down on that one.
No, you want to have 5 out of 5. And not only that though, you want to make sure your property is very clean. I really take pride on, I do have a cleaner that will go in between, but I always go behind them and do one last clean before they come in. And then and also adding little touches like a welcome card and a bottle of wine. And not only that though, Drew, making sure that they have a really nice stay and a good experience.
Right on.
So then they'll always want to come back, and they'll also give you a good review.
Do they get Netflix?
Yes, they do have Netflix. They do, and they also have the
the Air Stick or whatever,
Yes.
right? Yeah, those are awesome. Yeah.
yes,
Disney
and
Plus.
high-speed internet.
Are there any tips that you've been given tips this whole time, but any like top tip?
Anybody who wants to start an Airbnb, I think number one, it's the location. Where is the location of the Airbnb, right?
Okay.
And number two, making sure that you stay in touch with your guests and make sure that you're there if they need anything. And that's the thing, you don't want the toilet paper to run out. So you always want to check in and say, how is your stay? Is there anything that we can do, right? And which we do. We always touch base, and we want to ensure that they're having a great time.
Because you're the business owner, right? You want to make sure your business is running smoothly, right?
That's right.
I was also interested in hearing your thoughts on maybe getting a manager to do your Airbnb versus yourself.
Yes. Okay. If you're doing it yourself, my biggest tip would be you want to be very close to your property, and you want to make sure that you have access to it and you could be around to sort of spy, see what's going on, right? But if the property is further out, my suggestion would be, hire a reputable property management company. The only less of a benefit from hiring someone is they charge 15 to 30% for managing, right?
Okay.
Versus you do it yourself, you learn from the pros and cons, but you gain the full management fee.
And margins might be tightened with this
Yes.
interest rate environment, right?
Exactly, and with the home prices, it has gone up quite a bit. Keep an eye out if someone out there is looking to invest. There are quiet times in the market, usually around the holiday, around December. I find December, January is very quiet, and people do have to sell. There are estate properties. There are people relocating jobs, they have to sell, and so keep an eye out on the MLS.
Now, just kind of shifting gears a little bit, because the market is pulling back a little bit as of the last couple of months, I would say in August.
Since the first 100 points have gone up, there has been a change. So we are seeing inventory sitting a lot longer than we'd like. Keep in mind, inventory is still low. Sellers are still not in any rush to reduce the price. The value is still there on the properties. I think right now, the buyers who do have the money are just sort of pausing right now. And the people who want to buy, just from having a pre-approval and they have a time limit, I feel those are the first-time home buyers mostly, and they're just looking for a property below 400 or so, and they'll just buy a condo, or anything just to get in the market, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Because it's been tough. Like my wife and I, we've been looking, and we missed the boat, unfortunately, before the big jump.
Yes.
And we've been trying to make the numbers work for rental properties, right? Trying to figure out, can we still maybe not even turn a profit, but pay a little bit every month just to get the equity building. Do you foresee that any properties maybe on the outskirts of Halifax could have some potential for rentals, or is that just a waiting game for us, do you think?
There is no waiting game for real estate. Any type of investment is a good, positive add on to your portfolio. When you're building wealth, it's not an overnight sensation. Right now, everybody's waiting. You don't want to be the follower. Right now, if you see a property, even if it's a little bit further out, you grab that property, because right now there's less 1% vacancy right now.
Right.
So
You're going to fill it.
you're gonna fill it, even
Yeah.
if it's in Elmsdale or Shubenacadie,
Right.
or even in Mount Uniacke. People are wanting, they need a home, and there's just not enough rental properties out there. I mean, people who have pets prefer a detached home versus a condo. So there are a lot of renters that are moving into Halifax, and they have pets, and not all condos or apartments allow pets. Plus, if they have a medium or large dog, they want their dog to have a yard, and also their children, right?
Right, yeah.
So I feel like the only risk is just making sure that your pocket can handle the mortgage payment, and make sure that the rental income can cover your mortgage and some to set aside.
Well, I feel like these days, 2 years ago was about, well, how much net cash flow can I have? And now it's more about how much equity can I build per
Exactly.
month, even though it's taking out some cash flow from my pocket. Because I'm still getting
Yes.
equity built from the renters.
Right.
So that's really a shift in thinking that's been difficult for me personally, but I think that the opportunities are still there, because you're leveraging
There
a
are.
mortgage to
There are.
to
I
grow an
mean,
investment.
100% true. I mean, even right now, there's a lot of colleagues, realtors that I see sometimes posting, like, I bought a triplex or something out in, not even in the HRM, right? So it's an hour and a half away, I see, and then I see that same agent posting second time, I bought another one. It's also out in the rural area, right? But it's a fourplex, for example. So rentals are needed. Do you primarily do residential, or do you do commercial mortgages?
Residential market.
Okay. If someone who is a business owner versus someone who has a salary, say they wanted to buy a 6-unit property, what are some of the pre-qualification notes for an investor? Like, what do they need beforehand, or how they should work their way up to get to that level?
Build the ladder of
Exactly.
investment properties. Yes.
Exactly.
I always think of it as a pie,
Okay.
and each piece of the pie is as important as the other, as a key to qualifying for the financing.
Okay.
So, biggest piece of the pie, I would say, cash flow.
Yes.
We really have to make sure that your profile will cash flow to support the debt
Right.
that you're trying to get.
Right.
Right? So there's a number of ways that can be done. It can come from your own salary or a business.
Right.
It could come from a co-signer that's going on with you. And it can come from the cash flow from the property itself. So if we can prove through an assessment or existing history of the rent for that property
Yeah.
that there's enough cash flow coming in to cover a majority of the costs,
Right.
then we can usually get the debt ratios to work for that property.
So what is that debt ratio right now? What are you guys looking for with a person buying a 6-unit versus someone who is just buying a primary property, like a primary residence?
Well, actually, the debt ratios would be the same for both.
Okay.
And typically you want to see about no more than 42% of total debts or income going towards your debts.
Okay.
We can stretch that sometimes depending on the situation.
Right.
But 42 is usually the sweet spot.
I thought it went down. Did it not go down to 39 or 35?
So that'd be for the gross debt ratio.
Okay,
So that's your
okay.
income only
Okay,
versus the house expenses.
Okay, got it.
So
Got
gross
it.
debt ratio is only the property versus your income.
Okay, got
And
it.
then total debt ratio is your credit cards and the property and your car. That's total debt ratio.
Okay,
So your gross, which is the second ratio we use,
yes.
is 35%, and we can stretch that sometimes to 39, depending on the situation. If we're trying to figure out if we can qualify you for another mortgage
Yeah.
and you have one existing, You basically just tally up the expenses for the other properties.
Yeah.
And if there's any revenue coming from those properties as well. And then we would work everything into your ratio.
Okay.
It's really all to do with the
Numbers.
inflow of cash versus the outflow of cash. And that's as simple as it gets, really. If you saw it on our system when we're entering it all,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem so simple. But
Right.
in a nutshell, that's the idea of it.
Good tips. Just having you, like, you've taught me a lot too. You've helped me along the way.
It can be stressful if you don't have somebody to go to that
Yeah.
has been through it and knows what they're talking about, right?
I think, like anything else, you have to make mistakes to never make those mistakes again. And it's nice to know somebody who's made them, and then you can add some very valuable information to help your friends avoid those mistakes.
How can people get a hold of you? How do they reach out to you?
They could go on my IG account. It's Halifax Realtor _ Sandi Lee, or they could just Google my name, and my phone number is on there. If anybody wants to ask questions or chat.
Are you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter. I think what's really important is people just really need to know who you are. People really want to get to know the individual's personality.
Make sure that they know that you're somebody that they can work with, that they can relate to, and all that, right?
And that you're real.
Yeah, that's you're real.
You're
Exactly.
real.
This has been really fun talking about this topic.
Thank you, Drew, for inviting me. I look forward to collaborating with you again.
Absolutely. If you're looking to get a hold of me anytime, I can be found online under Drew McQuinn at rbc.com. I am also on Twitter and Facebook. And if you like what you saw today, please like and subscribe to my channel. We'll be posting more videos on these real estate topics in Halifax. Hopefully we can add more value for you in this market and make sure you're buying the right house for you.
Exactly.
See you next time.
Bye.